Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Roland. Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about the preparation for the historic arraignment of former President Donald Trump. We're going to check in with Dr. Jason Nichols to get his take on that situation. Also, we're going to have this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment with Dr. Bridget, MD, and she talks about Medicaid cutbacks and the impact that will make on the system. And then later, we check in with my man Scotty from Off-Script TV to talk about yesterday's historic LSU win and that gesture that Angel Reese made to Caitlin Clark. Wow. And what does that mean for college sports? Folks, stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Woo! All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. So much that we need to talk about. First and foremost, happy Monday. I hope you had a fantastic, peaceful, restful weekend. You enjoyed the sunshine if it was, sunny in your area. But I hope you had a great weekend. But today we wanted to talk about kicking off the discussion around President Trump, former President Trump, how he has made his way from Mar-a-Lago in Florida to New York to get prepared for the historic arraignment of his investigation of the case against him that the government has against the former president. 30 federal counts of 30 charges that will be that have been placed against the former president, all dealing with a number of issues relating to his business affairs, business fraud, the payment to porn star Stormy Daniels, and a host of other charges. And the president seems to be somewhat trying to figure out, the word is that he's trying to figure out the best way to use the moment to boost his political capital. Now, let's not forget the fact that President Donald Trump is still a candidate for the presidency of the United States. What? Yes, folks. He is still a candidate. The Republican Party has not completely rebuked him, and they have not completely denied him. They are, in fact, preparing to see what kind of defense they can make for the former president. So this is going to be an interesting situation. But let's talk a little bit about what should we expect at the arraignment. And I want to bring my brother, who serves as the lecturer at the University of Maryland for the African American Studies Department, brother and Dr. Jason Nichols, to talk to us a little bit about this situation. Let's bring Dr. Nichols into the frame and see what we can do with it. Let's see, make sure, okay, let's check it out. All right, we're going to check in with Dr. Nichols in a few moments, but let me share with you a little bit about what this whole situation looks like, folks, because this is absolutely interesting. Absolutely. All right, take a look at this. Here's the latest coming from CNN. Take a look. Trump faces 30 counts, more than 30 counts relating to business fraud, but the indictment remains under seal. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has been investigating Trump in connection with his alleged role in a hush money payment scheme and cover-up involving adult film star Stormy Daniels that dates to the 2016 presidential election. Trump and his allies have already attacked Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and an advertised Tuesday night speech back at Mar-a-Lago will likely be given by Trump more opportunity to claim he's being politically persecuted. Only, in the great words of Don King, boxing promoter Don King, only in America can a man like Trump, who is being indicted, who is being charged by the federal government for a host of violations of the law, only in America does he go back home to have an advertised speech to talk about political persecution. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Folks, I want y'all to join me into this conversation. hit me up on social media. You can follow us on our social media platform, of course, at Black Star Network. But also, you can join the discussion, join my culture crew on the chat on YouTube, on Facebook. We would love to hear what's your take on this, as we are expected to see this historic day. Many are saying that this is a day that they could not wait for to happen, while others are saying that this is a day that may just end up in being another demonstration of political theater. What do you make of the situation? What do you make of this situation? Join us in the conversation. I would love to hear from you and get your thoughts as we were talking about the preparation of the arraignment of former President Donald Trump. Here's my thing, and let me just throw this out there very quickly. Take a look at this, folks. Now, there is CNN did a poll around this issue, and this poll is interesting. Take a look. 60% of Americans approve of the indictment of former President Donald Trump. Now, according to this is according to a new CNN poll conducted by SSRS following the news that the New York grand jury voted to charge him in connection with hush money payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Now, about 3/4 of Americans say politics played at least some role in the decision to indict Trump, including 52% who said it played a major role. Now, independents largely line up in support of the indictment. 62% approve of it, and 38% disapprove. Democrats are near universal in their support for the indictment. 94% approve, including 71% who strongly approve of the indictment, with Republicans less unified in opposition. 79% approve, with 54% strongly approving. Y'all remember when I had the conversation last week, we talked about this, when I said that voter values is really the true threat against democracy. Y'all remember that? The point that I was making, saying that if the voters are at a space where they don't see that either something is egregious, if the voters' values aren't in a space where they say, okay, this is right and this is wrong, then guess what's going to happen, folks? That people are not going to necessarily be up in arms, or they're not going to be as excited to see something like this going down. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm looking at the numbers here. Again, 60% of Americans approve the indictment. About 3/4 of Americans say politics played at least some role in the decision to indict Trump, including 52% who said it played a major role. If you have 3/4 of the American people who say, yeah, 60, a little bit over than half of the American people say, yes, he needs to be indicted, but there's also some politics in it. Not really thinking about how this man has represented the country, or has served, who is looking to represent the country again, not considering the fact that there is a real problem. Not just a character problem, but there is a very real problem of how we just allow people into office who don't deserve it, who aren't qualified, and we don't hold them accountable. And we still think that, quote unquote, politics is at play. Not the fact that, oh, this is right, this is wrong. Now, the go-to scapegoat idea is that politics is at play. Like, yeah, I mean, we think he should be indicted, but we think there's a political agenda. How about the fact that he's indicted because he's wrong? Not because he's a Republican. Not because he aligns himself with certain people. How about just simply because he is wrong? And this is the problem, folks. This is another value that I think that voters, you and me, and the rest of the American people, right, folks need to really look at. If we're always thinking that somebody, the punishment of someone is because of their political affiliation, the punishment of someone is because of who they know, and not looking at the very fundamental principle of right and what's wrong, then that's the problem. If we always look through the metric of the other stuff, instead of the stuff of, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this fair? Is this unfair? Is this helpful or is this harmful? If we don't look at those fundamental things, right, then we have a serious problem in this country. All right, I want to go to you, hear what you got to say on this. Make sure that you join us in a conversation. So many people have been checking in, and I'm so happy to hear from you, my crew, on this. Lisa, let's start with you. You kicked it off and said, what a disgrace. This man can still run for president with all of the criminal activity that he has committed. Right and wrong, Lisa. I'm right there with you, sis. Right and wrong. Like outside of Republican, outside of all the stuff he's doing, he's right and wrong. And see, when we say, and I don't know about you folks, but this is how I feel in terms of there's always, when we start saying, oh, it's political, it becomes this gray area instead of right and wrong. It's just right or wrong. That's it. That's the standard that we should hold our elected officials, the standard of right or wrong. So, Lisa, I am with you 100%. Pauline, you checked in and said he should be handcuffed and shackled. Well, there is some conversation about whether he is going to be that, if he's going to experience that. I was reading one report from CNN. It said that he may not actually get a mugshot because after he goes to his court appearance tomorrow afternoon, then he's going to jump on a plane, go back to Mar-a-Lago, and get ready for a speech. Yeah. Let me go to, thank you, Pauline. Truth is power. You say it's a good thing that Trump is still running for office while he's going through his indictment because it's good for the Democrats. If we can unite, we can use it for our benefit. Well, trust and believe, truth is power. You know it and I know it, sir. Guess what? He's going to use it for his benefit. He's going to talk about how he's going to try to create himself like he's a political prisoner, being politically persecuted, right? Instead of looking at a man wrong while he was running his campaign. Good point. Cautious thoughts, you said, what should be most concerning to us and the people in the United States is this. Donald Trump continues to exert a great deal of influence over one of the two major political parties in this country. My brother Conscious thought, I couldn't have said it better, sir. That is absolutely the truth. Absolutely the truth with no chaser, man. That's just getting straight down to it. He still wield power. And the fact is that we are, and it forces us, and I'm going to take a quick pause after this. It forces us to get into this space where we have to not look at the situation through the very clear lens of right and wrong. It forces us to try to adjust and to try to fix our minds into trying to look at this situation in a different way. And it's absolutely insane. Folks, look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation. What are your thoughts about this situation of President Trump's arraignment as this being prepared, as the whole country is looking and waiting with bated breath to see how this is going to play out? We're continuing the conversation and certainly the coverage here on the Black Star Network on our culture, and we'll continue the discussion with you. So stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot
tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about preparing for the historic arraignment of former President Donald Trump, who is expected to appear in the New York City Manhattan court tomorrow as part of the federal investigation against the former president when he has been charged with over 30 counts of business fraud, including the payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. But he's really dealing with a lot of other issues. Relating to his business affairs. And now we're looking at what should we expect with this whole situation going down. I want to get back to your thoughts though on this, folks. Crew, I want to hear more from you. Make sure you post your comments on YouTube as we have this discussion. Corinna, I want to go to your comment. Thank you so much, sis, for checking. And you said, I'll be excited when we see the orange agent in his orange jumpsuit with his orange makeup. Until that happens, I'm somewhat stoic on the matter for the time being. I understand. Hey, Corinna, you're from New York, so you know the term, Teflon Don. Like nothing really sticks to this guy, right? Like you could throw all of this stuff at him, but nothing truly sticks to this guy. So I'm right there with you. Appreciate that, and certainly I caught the orange reference, Corinna. I caught that. All right, Howard, talk to me, sir. You said peace to all here. Sure, politics may have played a part, but you know what they can say. You know what they say: live by the sword, die by the sword. Look, it's going to catch up. I was having a conversation with some folks and over the weekend, and one of the things that I mentioned was that I truly believe that we are living in a time where justice is not far off for any of us, right? But especially those who wield great power, those who have great influence in this country. I think that we are seriously in a time frame, folks, where back in the day, we never thought that certain people would ever get locked up or ever get caught or ever really have to, address whatever issues they have or have to suffer any type of consequences in our lifetime. Y'all remember those moments? But now that has changed. That look how quick that this situation has gone. A few years after President Trump leaves office, and boom, it's like stuff starts hitting right then and there. Now, I want us to keep this in mind too, Howard, like the point you made. I mean, look, he's been doing this for years. This is not his first his first ride around the block in terms of violations, in terms of doing things that people say warrants some sort of consequential action. This is not his first time. He's been doing stuff like this for years. But now it's all catching up to him. It's all catching up to him. But let's keep this in mind, folks. Let's keep this in mind. He's not just, it's not about him. And here's why I'm saying that. Because we can get caught up in saying, oh, if he gets indicted, if he gets, he's going to jail. Whoo! Like we're ridding the world of evil. We're not. We're not. The sad part about President Trump is that he's one of many. That's really the sad part about this whole thing, right? That he really was pardon the pun, he was a trumpet for a number of views and philosophies, whether it's from the white supremacist space, whether it's from a conservative space, whether it's from the elitist space, whether it's from whatever space, he served as the conduit for that thinking. So if he has already, I mean, okay, he goes down, but then you have others that's popping up. It's like a whack-a-mole game, right? It's like you knock him down, somebody else pops up. Somebody is going to try to take the same ideology, the same thinking, try to do what he do. And you know how folks say, I'm going to do it bigger. I'm going to do it better. That's the concerning part. Are we really cutting off the head to the snake of corruption that is in this country if we locked up President Trump? No, we aren't. Now, we might say, oh, man, well, you know, he's influential. But then you still have people who might be even smarter than him, i.e. Ron DeSantis and others who understand how to play the political game so that way that their thinking, their philosophies become institutionalized into policy. And that's the part about this whole scenario that we got to keep in mind. Yeah, I mean, yeah, many of us probably say, oh, I want to see him locked up. I want to see him locked up. But I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking at the fact that, one, the Republican Party is planning to come around him to protect him. So that's a problem. And then I'm looking at number two, he's still considered to be a man whose idea is still flourishing. So how do you stop an idea of a person that has already taken root? This is not as if President Trump is just coming on the political scene. He was already president. He has already strong supporters, loyal supporters. He has a loyal base. So how do you stop the growth of the idea of President Trump that comes from him, that comes from other people, but he has learned how to shape it and modernize certain language that now a new generation of people have taken hold onto these ideas and to these philosophies to the point now they take the baton from him and they continue down the path. How do we stop that? That's the concerning part for me. That's the concerning part for me. Let me go to M. Moy. M. Moy, you checked in. I appreciate you. You said the only way it is political is because he's a politician. That's it. It's political because he has made it such a political situation, right? That he has essentially said, this is political persecution because of who I am and what I believe and how my policies are and the things I think. He's made it political just as much as it is could be political. We see that all the time. It happens on both the Democratic side and happens on the Republican side, right? It's been, the whole thing is political. I mean, we can't get around the fact that it is political because he is a former president of the United States of America. So it's going to be political. But outside of the politics, my thing, Moy, is that it's still an idea. His idea is still alive and well right now in this country. Robin Welch, thank you so much. And Moy, thank you. Robin, you checked in and said, right is right, wrong is wrong. The problem is privileged and unprivileged facts. I would agree. I would agree. Now, it took him a long time for us to even get to this place and bringing him to account for his actions. It took him for a long time. And take a look. Take a look. Think about this. I don't know if y'all really thought about this, Robin, but think about the fact that he is going to prison, or not going to prison. He is being indicted, rather, based on a payment to a porn star for sexual favors. That is more personal. Now, he did it while in the course of his presidential space, right? He did it during the campaign and all of those things. He did it during that time, but it wasn't like he's going to prison like what we saw with the story of Richard Nixon with the Watergate scandal, right? This is like left field type stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's not because his policies has brought him to prison. It's because he did something to please and gratify himself. Or, you know what I mean? It's brought him to his point. I keep saying going to prison, but but it's not because everything else. It's because of, this is a personal thing. He just happened to do it at the wrong time. But it wasn't like he wasn't going to do it. He was definitely going to do it. But it happened the way it happened at the time that it happened. So it's still, to me, I'm gonna be honest, it still feels like, this is. I hope that they have something of substance. Now, the business fraud side of things, what he did with his Trump organization and all of those things, certainly that can lead to it, right? I mean, while he was in office, whether he was still like profiting off of the fact that he was having conferences and doing dealings with, he had all these backdoor deals with other people, with people in this country, companies and other nations and all of that sort. That certainly can lead up. But I'm saying, you get what I'm saying on that, Robin? He paid off a woman to be quiet so he doesn't look bad in the public sphere for his sexual issues. All right, let's go to McCole. McCole, you said, what is this saying? What is the saying? It is easier to be rich and guilty than to be poor and innocent. The treatment is different. 45 needs to be treated like anyone else who gets booked, fingerprinted, and mugshot. Okay. At this point, let's say this. At this point, McCole, he gets fingerprinted and mugshot. Does that change anything in terms of how his policies or his influence has affected America? Does that change it for the 70 million people? I'm sure he probably lost some folks, right? But he still has a strong base. He still has the Republican Party behind him. The GOP is still, and in spite of all of their so-called moral standings on the situation, they're still standing behind him. So, if the impeachment would have been different. If the impeachment of his colluding with Russia, the impeachment of him, dealing with the situation of January 6th, that's the real threat. Not you pay it. You know what I'm saying? It gets to be that way, but I definitely understand your point. Vince, and I appreciate you, McCole. Vince, I thank you so much for checking in. You said, I'm just wondering about how much further this will fracture our country to the point I'm looking at where I can live other than the United States. And see, that's the other thing too. That's the other thing. And I think, Vince, you bring up a very real concern, but let me just share with y'all what I think on this very quickly. And then, Vince, you tell me if you agree with me or not. The fact is, this country has to stop bullshitting. It has to change. Something has to drastically happen in this country if we're talking about making the fundamental historic changes that we say we want. Something got to give. We can't tippy-toe around this. We can't walk on eggshells and think that this country is going to make the dramatic changes that it needs to make to accommodate the varying interests of all of these people in this country. So if you don't prosecute a Donald Trump on the things that he's done, right? He's one of the biggest violators right there on the public space and the political space on the scene right now. If you don't go after him and set a precedent, then what are we really saying? Are we saying that it's okay? Like, I don't want to fracture the country up. Like, part of me, and folks, y'all got to ride with me. We just got to go through this. We fracture the country, break it down, break it up, because I'm tired of continuing to act as if all is well in this country when we know damn well it isn't. Fracture it, bust it up. And at least once we can bust it up, let's get into the space of trying to rebuild it. But it's like you're in a relationship. I'm telling you, I was telling someone this the other day. It's like when you're in a relationship and you know the relationship is not working and you're trying to do everything you can to keep that relationship, but you already know the relationship is over, right? And you keep trying and you keep trying and you do this little thing and you do that little thing because you are essentially afraid of the reality that the relationship is over. We got to confront this in this country. If we're serious about changing America for the betterment of our children and for the future, we got to confront this. And if it's with Donald Trump's indictment or with some other situation, so be it. Because I don't want to carry this burden on to my children. All right, we got to take another pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us, folks. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about the preparation of the arraignment of former President Donald Trump, the impact, and more importantly, what should we expect tomorrow? And I'm loving the comments that I'm hearing from you folks around this whole situation. We just got word that President Trump has officially landed in LaGuardia in New York just a few moments ago. So he is going to be staying at his Manhattan residence. And then, of course, tomorrow's arraignment hearing is scheduled for 2:15 tomorrow, around that time of 2:15. Here's some footage of the president. They actually, for the courthouse, I read that they actually halted all of the other trials until after his trial as a result of security and mostly because of security concerns from, Secret Service agents to NYPD airport security. So, and I mean, excuse me, court security. So there is going to be some major changes in New York City. But here's the footage of the president, former President Donald Trump, landing in New York City as he's getting prepared for this historic arraignment tomorrow. And it is interesting. I think the whole country we're going to be tuned in to see what do we make out of this whole situation. There's been so much talk about, what could happen. If y'all remember that maybe it was last week when Trump tweeted that he was going to be arrested, and also he was calling for his supporters to stand in protest against this whole situation, as he calls it, political persecution. So we may see some of that tomorrow. There are, of course, NYPD and the city of New York is preparing for any type of protest, any type of mass gathering of Trump supporters. So this is going to be so interesting about this. And I can't, it's hard for me not to believe that in the midst of a serious moment like this for the whole country, where I would say it's not just about one man being arraigned or on trial. This is really democracy being on trial. It's hard for me not to believe that President Trump is just reveling in this whole thing, that he is actually enjoying all this attention. We know he loves the attention, folks. We know, we can go back to January the 6th and how he was hesitant to come out and say a little thing to stop people from doing what they were doing, to climbing on the walls of the Capitol. So I am sure without a shadow of doubt, I'm sure he's loving this attention right now. So it's going to be very, very interesting, to say the least, how this is going to play out. But this, again, I'm going back to my original point, one of my points on this. This is so much bigger than President Trump, so much bigger. This is really about us. This is really about the American people. This is about democracy. And my hope is that there's some different conversations. Let me go back to something that we shared with you earlier. And folks, I want you to keep on posting your comments on our YouTube page as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, and certainly on our social media page on Facebook. But I want to go back to something in that piece about the poll that CNN did around this whole indictment. And take a look. Just listen to this, folks. Democrats are near universal in their support for the indictment. 94% approve, including 71% who strongly approve of the indictment. With Republicans less unified in opposition. 79% of the Republicans disapprove of the indictment, with 54% strongly disapproving. So there is a real problem in this country. When you have nearly 80% of Republicans who disapprove of a man who has committed a wrong, what does that say about the party itself? What does that say to the American people? What does that say to the American people who are affiliated with that party? We are in a time, folks. This is a very, very serious time. We are really in a time where truth is out the window, and it's all about who you know, what you got, how much you can finagle, how well you can finagle the system. It's not about truth. It's not about right. It's not about wrong. It's not about any of those fundamental things. This is about the fact of, that's my man. Y'all wrong for calling my man to the carpet for something that he knows he did was wrong. And this is why you do have the imbalance in people's thinking when it comes to politics in this country, so much so that people are resorting to violence. Now, we're not seeing it like we're seeing it across the waters in other countries, right? Where we're seeing people going into a town square and blowing themselves up for a political purpose. We're not seeing it to that extent, but we may get there. Because when you say that you are the party that is supposed to be the party of right, the party of moral authority, and yet you ride with the man who you know is wrong, who the American people know is wrong, and yet you trying to convince us that all is well, that this is persecution, instead of taking the real high road and saying he's wrong, it's 2 less feet. We're not going to be we're going to allow the book, because what good does a man like that do for a party that's supposed to stand on quote unquote principles of fairness, principles of truth, principles and values of family? When you ride with a man, and I'm saying ride, you stand in solidarity with a man who has violated every one of those principles. How do you stand? How are you the party of family values when you stand with a man who has paid off a porn star to have a sexual affair while he was married? But you saying you are the party of family values, and you disapprove of the fact he's being called to the carpet? We got a serious problem in this country, folks. We have a very, very serious problem. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let me get some words from my brother, Dr. Jason Nichols from the University of Maryland. We'd love to get his take on his final segment around this conversation. So stay with us. We got a lot to get to in the final segment here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. Final few moments in this conversation about the preparation for the arraignment of President Trump. We showed you just a little bit of the footage from LaGuardia Airport in New York, where President Trump has officially arrived in New York as he prepares for that arraignment tomorrow afternoon. Let me get my brother, Dr. Jason Nichols, in very quickly. And Doc, good to talk to you, bro. I'm really happy to have you on. Let's talk a little bit about this. What do you make of this? I'm putting it all out there. We got a problem with being right and wrong. We got a problem with Republicans siding with the man who paid for his extramarital affair. We got some problems right now. But the biggest problem is this latest poll from CNN showing that folks think that this is still politically motivated, instead of being a situation where a man who's currently running for office is still is wrong in this whole matter. So what do you make of this, bro?
So the first thing I would say is to any Republican, and I've been saying it for a while, is that there's nobody the Democrats would rather run against than Donald Trump. Donald Trump does for Democrats and for the left what Hillary Clinton does for the right. He gets them fired up. They come out and they come out in droves and they vote because Donald Trump offends them. So I think, anybody who thinks that this is politically motivated is making a huge mistake. This is about the rule of law. If somebody commits a criminal offense, and these people will argue, lock them up. By the way, they didn't mind people running for president being locked up in 2016. They yelled, lock her up the entire time. But now all of a sudden they're saying, oh, no, you can't lock up a presidential candidate. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. In that case, I would say anybody who gets accused of a crime should say, hey, I'm planning on running for office. So I think that's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous defense there. If someone commits a crime, it doesn't matter that they're a billionaire. They should get the same treatment as somebody who is destitute. And that's what this is about. And I think, many of us understand that. And we actually think it's great to see a billionaire, powerful person, popular person get held to account when they commit a crime. I also would remind people that this is a documents case. So there's documentation. So everybody on the right saying, I disagree with this. I disagree with this indictment. You don't even know what the indictment is. We don't even know what the charges are.
Well, that's interesting. Hey, Doc, that's what one of our crew members, Chris Woodruff, you checked in and said that. How do people agree or disagree with Trump's indictment when the public does not even know what the indictment is for?
Right. I mean, I think we know what it's about, but we don't know what the charges are. Right. And, we haven't seen even a lick of evidence that they have. And like I said, I believe this is going to be about falsifying business records, meaning, which again, there's footage of some of Trump's insiders saying that he paid, including Rudy Giuliani, saying that he paid $130,000 in legal fees to Michael Cohen for services that were never rendered. Now, if he wrote those off on his taxes, that's fraud, because you're basically falsifying your business records. So it's not necessarily about election interference. That's just fraud. And, it's not the heaviest sentence, but there are people saying that the federal case, he's going to get caught on obstruction. And people on the right, they bring up Hunter Biden as if we care about Hunter Biden. I think if Hunter Biden committed a crime, let Hunter Biden go to jail. I got family members who have served time in jail for crimes they committed. I wanted them to not serve time for crimes that they didn't commit. But if you are found guilty and it's clear hush money is not a crime in and of itself, but if he falsified records and there's record of it and there's other evidence and you have witnesses, we at least have one, which Michael Cohen with us. If that all comes together, why should he not serve time or at least not be convicted? I don't know about the time thing yet, but not be convicted of a crime. But we don't even have the details to say anything. And people are saying I'm against it when they don't even know the evidence. They haven't seen anything. They don't know the legal. People are saying it's on shaky legal grounds. Based on what? You don't even know what he's being charged with. But I think this is only the beginning. We're going to see lots of other crimes he's going to be held to account for. And the country's going to be split. And I think if there's one thing that this whole ordeal has proven, there is no such thing as American exceptionalism. We are no different. We are human beings. We are no different than those third world countries. And Trump is exposing that more than anyone has in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to go to Derek. You said this, don't vote for anyone until you're satisfied about their platform. I'm a registered Republican, but have voted for many local and statewide Democrats. Well, Derek, I think that that's a good point, but I think the other part of the matter is not just being satisfied with their platform, but being satisfied with their human form, their character. I mean, we had my guy Hassan Giordano on last week, Dr. Jason, and you know, he made the point. He's a guy that has helped and has done local and national politics in terms of campaigns. And he said, we don't talk. He said, as much as we think that we know these candidates, we don't really know these candidates because they put on this persona, this view, that this presence that of how they want to be perceived by the world. So yeah, I mean, the platform is nice, but I want to know who you are. Because I have to be sure that my interests are in the hands of an individual, man or woman, individual who has some sense of morality, who has some sense of my values, who have some sense of understanding of things, right? I need to kind of get a better sense of who you are. Your platform can sound pretty, it can sound nice, it can appease to my interests, but I need to know who you are. Doc, you got the final word. We got about 30 seconds. What do you make of it?
You know, I agree with you 100%. I think one of the things about Donald Trump that even Trump insiders have told me is that everything he does is transactional. It's not based on conviction. It's not based on morality. It's based on what's good for me. How is this going to benefit me? This is why he all of a sudden jumped on the evangelical train. He couldn't even name a verse out of the Bible. You know, when they asked him in 2015, they asked him, what's your favorite part of the Bible? He's like, oh, you know, it's too personal. Like he doesn't know. So this isn't based on morality. We all heard the Access Hollywood tape, which people said it was locker room talk. They just talked themselves into what they want to hear. And it's really sad that America has gotten to that point where we don't even, or many of us don't even think about character when we're voting for somebody. But again, Republicans, just as a party right now, unfortunately, are anti-democracy. And when you have a party that has lost over and over again, it's kind of an eventual thing that they're going to turn against voting and democracy altogether. And that's why I can't vote for Republicans right now.
Absolutely. Let me just throw out this little fun fact about this whole situation, Dr. Jason. Tomorrow is the official hearing for the indictment of this president, a president that represents so much of what this country is, right? The ugly side of what this country is from everything from capitalism to racism. And tomorrow is also the day that we will honor the death, the life and legacy, rather, of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. 55 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it might be a form of poetic justice. It may be a form, but I thought about it. My producer Joel and I talked a little bit about it before the show, and I'm just at the place. I'm like, there's got to be something there. There's got to be something there. Trump being indicted on the same day that Dr. King was killed 55 years to the day.
Right.
A man who, and I'm speaking of Dr. King, a man who stood against everything that Trump stands for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we are really in a time in this country where there is good versus bad, evil versus goodness, right versus wrong. This is that place that we're in this country. And I think that it is important that we keep those things in mind. This is not some superhero movie. This is not Marvel. This is not DC Comics, folks. This is real life. We are living in a time where if you don't stand for something right, essentially you are standing for wrong. If you don't speak out against what's wrong, then you are becoming complicit. You are an accomplice of what's wrong. Wow. Dr. Jason Nichols, my brother, good to check in with you. Thank you so much for your time. We'll reconnect very soon. Folks, we got to take a quick pause, and when we come forward, we're going to shift gears. Let's talk to Dr. Bridget. for this week's installment of Reclaim Your Wellness. So let's talk a little bit about health and wellness, because we're going to need something to relieve us of all of this madness that we are embarking upon. So stay with us. The conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, it is Monday, and it's now time for us to get a checkup from the neck up, as they say. So let's get into this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD. Good afternoon, Doc. How are you today?
Great. It's happy to be here, Faraji. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Always enjoy our conversations. We really do get into a lot of good stuff. So I'm looking forward to today's discussion. Now, something that you wanted to kind of highlight, there are a couple of things that we can highlight today, but one of them is the fact that there is a situation going on with this Medicaid situation.
Right.
So talk to us. What's going on? What's going on with Medicaid right now?
Absolutely. So if you've caught the news, if people are talking, you want to be informed about this, that 15 million Americans could lose Medicaid coverage as the pandemic policy is ending. So you may or may not be aware that during the time of the pandemic in 2020, that Congress was actually barred states from terminating any Medicaid coverage due to the pandemic at that time through the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So during that time, the amount of Medicaid coverage increased to more than 85 million people from that March 2020 to December 2022. So that's about 25% increase from prior to that in February 2020. The problem is that not only are a lot of people going to lose their health care, 15 million potentially, but also how are you getting that information? So whether it is you or someone that you know, you need to be aware of this, because if you don't act, you can potentially lose that coverage. And of course, if your income is above the level, you're likely to lose it if the states don't have another option for you.
So you're saying about 15 million Americans are at risk of losing their coverage?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so because of how the pandemic had affected so many people, it was good that there was an option for people. But at this point, the government has considered the issues around COVID and healthcare. And of course, people are hopefully now back to work, what have you. They're now just ripping away this option. So they're actually doing it as a rollout. It's going to start with 5 states. Actually started on April 1st. So if you are in Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, New Hampshire, or South Dakota, the process has already started. And then they're going to roll out across America over May, June, and July. So people need to stay vigilant to make sure that if this affects you in any way, that you're aware, because once they pull your insurance, you have 60 days to sign up for something else in the marketplace. And a lot of times these timelines, really, people kind of miss them. It's, if you're not checking your mail regularly, they're obligated to try to reach you numerous ways, but still very often people are missed. So this is an opportunity to make you aware of this so that you can hopefully change your coverage or help someone else that might not be aware.
So if we're looking at this whole situation and like in the big scheme of things, I mean, right now, because of COVID has threw a lot of things into like a haywire. And now folks are just getting back into some sense of normalcy, especially around their healthcare coverage. So I'm thinking about seniors. I'm thinking about, single parent households and families. What's going to happen there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the people that are most likely to be affected by this change are really going to be children, many young adults, right, that had missed their had a loss of income, had to end up going on Medicaid to get any coverage. Black and Hispanic or Latinx people are probably the most likely to be affected by this. And so there is a provision, but there are states that have not taken that on. And so that provision is that for this coverage gap, there are states that have not adapted the Medicaid expansion for adults, which would make people eligible that are outside of the usual income requirements. So people that had an income up to $14,000 or almost $15,000 could get the expansion, but there are 12 states that did not adopt this. And so in those states, people are even at higher risk, and they're thinking about almost 2 million people that would definitely not have any coverage options.
Wow. All right. So let's talk about, knowing that this stuff is pretty much is going to happen. How do families, how do individuals prepare for it?
Absolutely. So if you're relying on Medicaid for your care, you're going to want to make sure that your contact information is updated in their system. So people move, new phone numbers, new addresses, what have you. Make sure that your phone number, your email, your home address is updated with Medicaid so that they're able to contact you if there are any issues. Many states will mail a renewal form to your home. It is actually required, like I said before, that they try to reach you numerous ways, but many times, you'll see some of this kind of generic mail. And let's face it, in a quick, fast time, and, as far as technology and information, some of these generic little envelopes look like everything else and people toss it. So if you are relying on Medicaid right now, make sure that you're checking your mail, finding this form, make sure your information is up to date with them.
And I know that each state has their own like deadlines and they operate, especially like the healthcare system, differently. How does that impact this whole process?
So the new enrollment period will open for people just starting just this last March 31st. That enrollment period it will last up until about July 31st of 2024, because remember, we're rolling out different states at different times.
Right.
So that you have that period of time. But for those people that lose their Medicaid coverage, they'll have up to 60 days to enroll. So even though I'm mentioning this wider enrollment time period, you only have 60 days from the time period that you're losing your coverage. to try to reinstate it or get other coverage. So keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely. Folks, we've been chatting with my sister, Dr. Bridget, MD. I want to get your take on this. If y'all want to share some questions with Dr. Bridget around this issue of Medicare and how millions of Americans are poised to lose the healthcare coverage that they deserve and that they need, and you know, the impact that that's going to make. Join us in the conversation. Post your thoughts in our Facebook, and a YouTube chat. And crew, I want to hear from you what questions you have for Dr. Bridget. I'm thinking, Doc, that if, you know, this whole situation, I mean, this seems like in this country, when it comes to healthcare, there's always something on the horizon that's a looming threat, right? Like, and it's like keeping up with it, understanding this stuff. Are there some resources are there some places that people can look at this and say, okay, I have a better understanding of my healthcare, or I have a better understanding of how the healthcare system works? Because I just feel like, you know, when I looked at my healthcare insurance, when I've looked at life insurance, it can be so confusing. And going back to the whole senior things, you know, so you have some seniors who aren't living with their children, who are living by themselves. They don't have access, or if they do have access to the computer, it's the computer itself. It becomes a struggle and a challenge, especially in our neighborhood, in our community.
Absolutely.
So trying to navigate through all of those things.
You know, I'm going to mention an option that many people don't think of or might not be aware, that most health systems have a insurance specialist that if you call and say, can you sit down with me and help me understand my insurance? Most likely they're going to be able to make that appointment with you and do that. And I think that is a service that most people are not aware of. It puts you back into hopefully in your comfort zone, you know, talking to people that are within the medical office that you already go to. And they're often able to help you where, you know, I could tell you, you know, go to, you know, the Medicaid sites and government sites, which I find them overwhelming and confusing. But I think the idea of reaching out to your medical office, or if it's of a larger network, and saying, is there someone there that can go through my medical coverage with me and help me understand it? Most of them have someone that will actually take appointments.
Oh, so that's great to know. That's great to know, Doc. Nicole Smith checked in, Doc. She asked, can you get insurance, Obamacare insurance, if you don't have insurance? But it's not because you were dropped from the pandemic. It was dropped you from the pandemic. You just didn't have it at all. Is that possible?
So my understanding is that, you know, there's periods of open enrollment. You have to look at to see what's going on with your employment, whether if you don't have employment, you should be able to still obtain this. You know, there've been so many restrictions and changes, particularly during the time of the pandemic, that it's not as simple as it used to be. But if you're going to the marketplace, if you're able to get on and enroll, there should be options that are available to you. It's just as things have changed, incomes have changed, options have altered over time, it's gotten more confusing, but you should be able to go to the marketplace and find it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things McCollum brings up, she said, it seems like some Americans are always fighting for quality health care. How come this still seems like a far off goal?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the first things that I would say is that about only 14% of the US population, you know, across the US have considered what is proficient health literacy.
Wait a minute, say that again.
14%. So
14% of the US population have proficient health literacy.
Right. So whether it is understanding your health, your body, your insurance, however you have to operate through the system, only about 14% of people actually have that. Consider how low of a number that really is. And so to be able to connect and reach out and have websites and people that, you know, everyone that doesn't want to read a website, you know, as long as Christmas, trying to understand something with jargon that you're not familiar with. So that's why I really recommend reaching out to the offices where you can actually communicate with someone. And I will tell you, the first thing I would say is that as soon as people start using terminology or acronyms that you are not familiar, most of us sit there and say, okay, thinking you're going to catch on, stop them in their tracks.
Wow.
Stop them in their tracks and say, I am not familiar with that term, because this is your education, this is your health. And if they're using, you use the jargon of your industry, right? But people need to know how to communicate with people outside of their industry, particularly when it comes to their healthcare. And so I'm saying that not just for the, human resources or the insurance programs, the physicians, the nurses, everyone in this area needs to get out of their jargon and speak to the people that they're serving so that we can do better. 14% is way too low of a number.
Way too low. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to have more chat with Dr. Bridget, MD, get you more of your questions. Folks, join us in the conversation as we talk about Reclaim Your Wellness, and stay with us as you're tuned into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been checking in with our sister, our doctor here, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. And Dr. Bridget is just breaking it down or talking to us about the importance of making sure that we're getting the proper health care, as Medicaid is, 15 million of Americans are at risk of losing Medicaid insurance, folks, millions of people. And because of the changes from COVID to where the healthcare industry is going right now, it's going to cause some real problems. And so I would highly encourage, just like you've heard Dr. Bridget talk about this, but I would highly encourage, especially for those of us who have older parents who are still around, still living, to have these conversations, just to say, hey, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, are you covered? What's the status of your coverage, to make sure that they can go to the doctors and definitely take care of that, right? Because the industry is changing rapidly. And if you don't know, as you heard Dr. Bridget say, if you don't know what the direction that this industry is going, talk to an insurance specialist, talk to someone that's working within the industry, to have this conversation. And folks, it will make a world of difference. We had my sister Karen Connor on a few weeks ago. She's out here in LA, and she works in the healthcare industry. She's worked in the insurance industry, rather. Mm-hmm. And so having conversations about that, which, and Doc, we probably gonna have to do a show around the importance of not just healthcare, but also talking about wills or, life insurance, rather.
100%. Way too often.
Yeah.
We're learning about someone that's passed away, and now we're doing a fundraiser to be able so that they can have some sort of funeral, right?
And that's crazy.
And it's, we always think we always have more time. And so I think it would be a great opportunity to have that conversation. We starting earlier thinking about these things, because you never want that to be a burden on your family or your children if you can help it. And even if it's not the full payment, if you can at least start putting some of this away, and there's all sorts of resources in doing so, it's a good thing to have. another point about what you were saying about the healthcare insurance, it's not just losing your Medicaid and then going to the marketplace and finding something else. The services are going to be much different, right? So when you're going into that marketplace trying to find new insurance, it's going to be more expensive, undoubtedly. There's going to be different and sometimes less coverage for what you're able to afford. And so this isn't as simple as going from Medicaid and switching over to another option. What you might need for your health conditions might be a lot harder to get covered. So that's why, as you're saying, we need to talk to our, older people. We need to even talk to our young people. I work with a number of sickle cell patients, young people that have really bad health issues at times. We have to make sure that we have them covered and have options for them, because without their medication, without their ability to go to the hospital when needed, they're really in a bad situation.
No, absolutely. Very, very bad in situation. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Doc, because I think that you're also even having that conversation about, life insurance for your, for some of my culture crew members, they have older children, in their 20s and whatnot. And I don't know if folks are having these conversations with their 25-year-old. And I remember when I first enrolled for my health insurance some time ago, my life insurance, excuse me. My life insurance, my agent was telling me, yeah, man, like you're in great health. And it seems like, the industry doesn't want you to take life insurance out when you're very young. It wants you to kind of wait until you get into an older space. And in the Black community, I could only imagine what the life insurance rate is. And I probably got to bring my sister Karen back on to have that conversation. But I can only imagine what the rate of young people in their 20s and 30s who actually have life insurance, who have health care insurance, versus other communities. I can only imagine how serious that situation is. And of course, folks don't like to talk about that because folks don't want to think about their mortality. But guess what, folks?
Can't take it with you. Can't take it with you. Can't stay here. Can't stay here either.
If you pay less than $100 a month for some level of coverage, whether you're talking about health care, life insurance, some type of coverage for less than $100 a month, I mean, that's nothing.
No.
In the big scheme of things, when you consider how much money we pay for other stuff, Dr. Bridget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And literally I had this conversation this morning with a friend whose daughter, who I believe is 25, 27 years old. And when he was like, well, I can't cover you anymore on the on our medical insurance, she was like, well, I'm just going to wing it. This is what typically happens, right? You're young and, you have your whole life ahead of you. And so why have insurance? Because you're just going to wing it. But, and a lot of people consider life insurance and medical insurance just a gimmick. And I think it would be a really good opportunity to talk about what's a gimmick, what is really important, so that we cover each other, and having opportunities to get this paperwork and these issues in order and trust the system, because I think that's what holds us back. And it's held me back at times. Yet you're telling me that I should pay for this and pay for that, and I don't really see the outcome. And will it benefit me? Why do it at all? But there are reasons to do it, and we should definitely cover that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got a final few moments here. Let's talk a little bit about this month being a major and significant month.
Yes.
Right. So this month is National Minority Health Awareness Month. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I definitely like to bring up these observances to keep this, and hopefully it'll stick with people and it'll stay in your mind, that it is National Minority Health Month. It is the Minority Health Institute definitely observes this. It's to highlight the importance of improving the health of racial and ethnic minorities and BIPOC communities, and reducing health disparities in the United States. And so we take the theme this month, or for this month, is better health through better understanding. And again, I mentioned before, only 14% of Americans really have a good health literacy as it is. And keep in mind that 60% of racial and ethnic minority patients believe at least somewhat that it's important to have a healthcare provider that who shares and understands your culture. And I think it is crucial. It makes a complete difference when you're able to explain your conditions, how you're feeling, what's going on with you, when you don't have to explain who you are.
Wow.
So there are definitely, I recommend if you're having trouble finding a provider that reflects who you are, blackdoctor.org can help you find it. There are other services out there as well. But if you go to blackdoctor.org, it will give you information and lists of different specialists and physicians, hopefully in your area. And then you need to communicate with the people around you, because when someone finds a good primary care specialist, what have you, that hears and listens to them, see if you can get involved in that practice as well.
Now, how does this, you're also working in the cannabis industry, so, and making sure that folks have a proper understanding of that space.
Yes.
So how does this fit in terms of understanding minority health? One of our questions from Pretty Brown Mimi 726, she said, is medical marijuana a good alternative to use during these trying times? Is this something that, are we at a point right now, Dr. Bridget, where when we're talking about minority health, that we need to have a conversation around the use of medical marijuana and cannabis?
Absolutely. So during the beginning of the pandemic, first of all, at least for the state of Ohio, the medical cannabis program was considered an essential program and remained open. And I believe for the most part, that was the case across the US. And so for many people during that time, it was their opportunity to either see if this was a medical option for them. It was definitely, for many people, it is their medication. And so if it was shut down, there would have been a humongous issue, because a lot of people have weaned off of other pharmaceutical drugs, are now using medical cannabis and CBD in different forms as their medication. And if it's shut down, that would have been a big issue. And so if you are unsure if this is something that could be beneficial for your health, find a cannabinoid specialist. And I say that because there are a lot of card doctors that will be happy to give you a card, but there's only a few medical doctors that will help you manage this as a medication. And that's something that's definitely worth looking into.
Absolutely. And Moy checked in and said that was a powerful statement that you made, having a doctor that you don't have to explain who you are. Yeah. That is a very, very powerful statement that you made. I mean, I think that's something that we need to keep to heart. You know what I'm saying, Dr. Bridget, and I mean, it may take some time, right? Because you're navigating through this space, but once you find the doctor that is your doctor, like they say in the dating world, my person, that is your doctor, it makes a world of difference.
Makes a world of difference. And in a time where doctors come and go, they don't feel supported by the medical system, it becomes even harder. There was a time where once that doctor got that position, just like many industries, that was their job for life, right? And we've gotten to a place where people are always searching for the best opportunity for themselves. And so if you find that doctor, definitely connect with them and be able to be honest, support them as well. When I was at the Cleveland Clinic, I had an amazing patient population. And it's because I invested in who they were as people. So many of them invested in me as a person as well. And you just don't see that anymore. So, there's always the boundary of the patient and the doctor relationship. But, historically, that was not only did doctors know their patients well, but patients knew their doctors well. And we've talked about this, where so many physicians are leaving the healthcare industry. So many patients are looking for alternative medicine. Reconstructing what our medical system looks like is crucial for its survival.
Reconstructing what the system looks like is crucial to survival. I could not disagree at all. All right, Doc. Well, we appreciate all of the great information and the insight that you bring to us each and every week, and especially today. I know that you're looking to open up the conversation even wider, so that's going to be happening soon. And we'll give folks more information about that. But how can folks reach out to you and get more if they have other questions and they want to get your thoughts?
Absolutely. So you're always welcome to email me at info@drbridgetmd.com. And many people have found me on Instagram, Dr. Bridget MD. Leave me direct messages, comment. During this month of Minority Health Month, I will be posting more information about that on my page as well. And as you're suggesting, Faraji, that starting next week, we'll have something called the After Chat. And that after your show is done on Mondays, we'll have a live Instagram Live where we can continue the medical conversation, share more information to help people reclaim their wellness.
There it is, y'all. There it is. Dr. Bridget is doing it big. She's doing it big for the culture and, of course, doing it big for our wellness. Dr. Bridget, always a pleasure to have you on, sis. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to that after chat as well to get more one-on-one conversations and recommendations and insight from you. But thank you so much for being with us here on The Culture this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with Scotty. I miss my brother. And let's talk about that historic LSU game. Let's talk about it. Because I know it. The whole country is talking about it. Angel Reese and the women of LSU taking down Iowa. Woo! What a game. Folks, stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Holding no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. It's time for us to have a conversation that pretty much a lot of people across this country are having a conversation, especially in Black media. And that's the conversation about the dynamic women of LSU and how they have now officially are reigning champions, winning their first national women's championship yesterday against Iowa. And it has sparked not just congratulations across the country, but a lot of controversy because one of their players, Angel Reese, who is a native of Baltimore, that's how we bring it from Baltimore. how she, the native from Baltimore who transferred from Maryland to LSU and was able to play for the coach there and then essentially become one of the star players on the team, made a gesture to Iowa's Caitlin Clark during the game, a gesture that Caitlin Clark actually used during the same tournament. And how there has now been some controversy around who can make the gesture and how it was received. Let me bring my guy Scotty in. I had to touch down my brother, man. Hey, yo. hey, yo.
You know what it is. What's goody, man? Haven't been here in a minute. Hey, listen, before we get this started, you already know what it is.
It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it.
It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. We can just start it right there.
Bro, first and foremost, hey, Scotty, first, big shout out to the women of LSU.
Absolutely.
Did they get their first national championship?
Shout out to Angel from Maryland. This is what Maryland is, okay? When people don't know how Maryland get down, this is how Maryland get down. We don't play like that. We don't back that stuff. You were saying all that. Back that up. See, people don't understand how Maryland get down. We different, but go ahead.
Hey, bro, we real different. Especially now, Angel is from Baltimore County. She's out of from Randallstown, which is in Baltimore. If you're from the area, it's like Baltimore City and Baltimore County is like kind of meshed together in a lot of ways. But the point is that is the spirit of athletes coming out of Maryland, man. Like there's no cut card. We're gonna bring it to you. And it's going to be in your face, and we're going to let you know.
Yeah, that's how, like, when I saw it, and I was like, man, she different. So I didn't know she transferred from Maryland. I was like, because when I heard she was from Baltimore, I was like, how'd she get out the city? I'm like, we're really good about keeping girls that are good in Maryland home. And then I realized she transferred. I was like, oh, come on, free.
Right.
We let this girl go, but that's neither here nor there. But let's
All right, so this has created a lot of controversy, just because of a gesture. And this is the part about it, Scotty. I'm seeing a couple of different things. One is race is at the top of the whole thing.
Yep,
it's a race thing. Caitlin Clark, who plays for Iowa, she dropped 30. She still did a game. She still had a hell of a game. She still broke some records in terms of women basketball in the national championship. But she used the same exact gesture, bro. And the gesture is just simply meaning, what, you can't see me. It's like,
John Cena used to do it.
John Cena's used it. Everybody, it's not like the gesture that got people really going is when that championship ring gesture. There it is. Boom.
Ring me.
This is during the fourth quarter when Angel Reese showed Caitlin Clark. The game is over, sis. The game is wrapped. But why is this double standard? Is it just because of race, or is there something underneath all that?
Oh, it's race. Oh, listen, it ain't nothing. Listen, it ain't nothing else but race. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what microscope you put this under, and you just have different cultures. Culturally, we're just different, right? So I'm gonna give it to you in a wide spectrum, right?
Right.
So let's go back to Haley, the girl from Louisville, right? When she's all fiery and amped and everything, she's a competitor. Oh, she's this, she's that. But when that black girl checked her in the line and said, "Hey, I ain't gonna be the B words too many more times,"
come on.
And then now the girl who challenged her, she's the issue. Oh, she lost. She needs to just worry about herself. Okay, all right, okay, cool. Whatever. Let's go a little further, right? I'll take it back even further than that. How about Terrell Owens, right? Terrell Owens was never an issue, right? Everything Terrell Owens has always done has always been about football. He's the only player that they allowed his off-the-field issues to not have him be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has all the numbers, he has all the statuettes, but all the antics and all the celebratory stuff and all the stuff off the field made him not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Let's go even deeper. Let's go into baseball, right? Hispanics and how they play baseball. They're flamboyant, they're loud, they like to have fun, they talk trash. Well, it's a white man's baseball, so we don't do that here. It doesn't matter what sport you look at. If it's predominantly dominated by a color,
Yeah.
Our color, there's a way it should be played, even though we're the ones making it hot. We're the listen. It's not a major billion-dollar sport that we don't dictate, right? Baseball is at the bottom of the map, and anyway, it's still dominated by Dominicans, Hispanics, and all that. So it's still minority based, right? Football, billion-dollar industry dominated by us. What did Aaron do? When he won the Rams?
Yeah,
he did the same gesture.
Right.
Steph Curry did the sleep night. Listen, it doesn't matter what we do. You know what I'm saying?
But see, that's the part about it. And I'm so happy that you're bringing up these examples, bro, because that's the part about it. And you know, in CNN, they did this report around this whole thing. And in their report, it talked about the fact that people call Angel Reese classless. They called the sister an idiot. I think Keith Olbermann said that she's an idiot for using the gesture. And and here's the thing, and I think, Scotty, you probably know better than any person to talk about race in sports. There is still, as much as we want to believe that sports brings people together, the racism in sports is actually very, very deep compared to some other spaces. Am I wrong on that, bro?
Oh, you're not. And it was so bothersome. See, we can take this. This could really be a long conversation because I even have a problem with Kim Mulkey, right? See, you have an all-white coach, all white, she white. You got a white coach coaching all black girls. But where were you when Brittany Griner was going through her situation and she made you at Baylor? You didn't even speak out on her issue, but now Kim Mulkey cool because she won a national championship. Players going to Alabama and Georgia when Bear Bryant didn't want black players at Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Until they went against USC, and he's like, "Yo, I got to get me some of those." Like, let's not play this game like there is not a racist. It's like a level of racism that just covers over. The reason why black people have always felt that sports are a bringer together is because that's where we could be the most unapologetically us and not be held to a standard to where you're like, because you're so good, they'll let you slide. Right? Since you're so good, I can be black. I can dance. I can show myself off, right? There's no code switching in sports. Right? Because you love me for me. Why? Because I'm scoring points. Because this is what I do. This is my talent. I'm excelling at this. So you're okay. You're accepting it because it's in a lane where you can eat it up, right? I can take them as it is. But if you took Angel Reese as she is, all Maryland, at your job, could you take an Angel Reese at your job the same way she is on the basketball?
No.
They wouldn't.
No.
They wouldn't. See what I'm saying?
No, bro.
When people say like I probably look too deep and I'm too analytical about stuff.
Nah, come on.
My thing is like we as black people have to. We have to. I love what she said. I'm unapologetically me.
Right.
I'm me. Right. This is who I am. I'm not going to, and nobody's asking Caitlin Clark to change. Nobody's telling Caitlin Clark she can't do this. Nobody telling Caitlin Clark she can't yell. It's the same thing with Tom Brady. Tom Brady yells at his players and his athletes. Let Cam Newton do that. Oh, he's being a team. He's decisive. He's breaking up the team apart. It has always been like this in sports to where white counterparts are allowed to do and say and be demonstrative and do this, and they're leaders. You know what I'm saying? They're leaders. They're fiery. They're competitive. And then on the flip side, for black athletes, they're demonstrative. They're decisive. They're classless. They're thugs. It's hood. It's ghetto. It's crazy.
And I guess now my question is, Scotty, is there a way that can be completely eliminated, or is that just something that just comes with the territory, and we just gotta have to teach future black athletes that, look, be prepared?
I think you have to teach them to be prepared, but you need more Don Staleys. You need more Dawn Staleys who are unapologetically them, right? When kids have to understand, I gotta go to a program that allows me to be me. And I'll give Kim Mulkey credit for this. She allowed Angel Reese to be her, right? Didn't ask her to change and say, hey, come here. Do I wish it did happen for Kim Mulkey? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, when we teach our athletes and we teach our Black men and women is, hey, there's nothing wrong with being you. There's nothing wrong with being you. My mom used to always say there's a time and a place, right?
Right.
There's a place for everything. So if you on the basketball court and they jawing, that's what it is in sports. You jaw, you talk trash, you do this. If that's who you are, all I say is this: the way you give it gotta be the same way you receive it. That's the only. I tell my kids all the time when they be joning on each other, I be like, listen, don't come running to me when your sister hit you below the belt because she done got you on one. You're like, Dad, she's talking, but no. You was giving it to her, she gonna give it to you, and she won this round. You know what I'm saying? So it's allowing kids and understanding them to allow them to be them and be comfortable, but being yourself. Be comfortable in your own skin of a Black man, a Black woman, and I'm talented, I'm good, I'm that guy or I'm that girl, and that can be anything. That can be in being a scientist, being a doctor, being a lawyer. Like, I mean, you ain't at the courtroom talking about you ain't good as me, but you gotta have that.
Right.
You get you can't see me, judge. Having that swag, taking that swag to wherever it is, because that's what Black people have, man. We just have a natural swag that people hate.
Hey, bro, absolutely. All right, Rodney Theoc checked in and said, white folks how dare she do that to our white princess? LOL.
I like that.
Rodney, you think that's what the word is? LSU. Oh my gosh, the big Black girls from Louisiana State just coming here to Iowa.
Yeah. Just think about it like this. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was like, ain't no all white team gonna beat no all Black girls. I don't care. Listen, I don't give a damn if Angel Reese wasn't on that team or not. You know what I'm saying? So I was surprised when they beat Carolina. When I was traveling and my homeboy hit me up saying, yo, you would never believe they beat. I said, oh my God. So I'm like, come on, Black girls. Like this, listen, you can't listen. I'm sorry. I'm like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody.
You root for everybody Black.
I'm rooting for everybody Black. You know what I'm saying? I would have preferred Dawn Staley to run this thing, but hey, Angel Reese, Maryland, I'll take the second up. She's consolation prize, but because I really can't stand Kim Mulkey. I ain't even gonna hold you.
I can hear you. I hear it. Robin checked in and said, "You're telling nothing but the truth." Absolutely. Janae said, "Are you serious? You better not get Kaepernick. We have to protect her." What do you think? And I think that brings up a great point, Scotty, that Janae is making. Because most of the time when we see athletes, our athletes, and I forget the sister's name, the runner, her name just escapes me now, but she's very flamboyant and very unapologetic.
Sha'Carri. Yeah.
When we see certain athletes, they get to when they get that national exposure, like Angel Reese is getting national exposure now. Like there's some things that start to happen. You know what I mean? That exposure can lead to all types of, just like. It could really get to a person. How do we protect her? How do we protect any of the young, women or men athletes that are coming down this pipeline to make sure that if you're going to be unapologetically you're doing it in a system and in an industry that won't, praise you. They're going to frown upon you. They're going to criticize you. They're going to talk bad about you. How do we get them protected?
I know this is going to sound bad, but you can't protect them, right? Because we don't control anything. What do we control?
Wow.
What media do we control? What Black media do we control? You know what I'm saying? You have Roland, but Roland don't cover sports. So if we're just talking in that, and we're talking about in the sports realm, there is no sport. There's no all Black sports ESPN. Hey, what is that? You know what I'm saying? And would it have the same validation as ESPN? I highly doubt that. So, but at the end of the day, you have to tell your person or whoever, your daughter, your son, is that one, the community around them, they know who they are. My mom used to always say that when you go into an environment, it should not change who you are. And I'll give you a good example, right? People get upset when you go to your job and you speak to somebody, they don't speak back to you. My mom said, why? That's who you are. Be who you are. So every day you speak to that person, even if they don't say nothing back, because that's who you are, right? So that don't let the environment around you change who you are. You know what I'm saying? If you speak to people when you see them, you keep speaking. So that's how you have to train our black children growing up in a space, especially social media, and you can go viral about anything, right? So understanding who I am. If Angel Reese is like, yo, this is what Sha'Carri Richardson, I love that she leaned into who she was. She's like, man, I'm from Dallas, I'm from Oak Cliff. This how we dress, this how I get down, and I'm gonna beat you looking like me, comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Nails and all. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, when our black athletes take national attention, what's the first thing they want to do? They want to find what's wrong with you. So why does Sha'Carri Richardson's stories go viral now that she's losing more than she wins? Because that's not an image they want to promote, right? They don't want to promote an image of a young woman being herself, authentically black, nails, hair done, laid, all that, and she kicking everybody's butt. But when she losing, they be like, see. You know what I'm saying? So it's you. As long as Sha'Carri knows who she is, do you, boo boo?
That same thing with Angel Reese. Long as she knows who she is, she's just going to have to just deal with it. But I think, to your point, you make an excellent point by saying there has to be a community around her, right? And I don't know, like, I haven't had the opportunity to play sports when I was in school, whether it's high school or college. You did. So for athletes, I'm assuming that there is a community of black athletes or community of athletes that support your authenticity, your being unapologetically you. Is there not?
Sometimes it's not, man. Like, I don't know if you saw Deion's Deion had an interview with he did a second up interview with The Pivot, and he said he's so inner driven because nobody ever came to his games. His mama was working 2 jobs, his dad wasn't there. He said, so I don't need you to validate who I am. So some people don't have that community, and like you got the Deion Sanders of the world who internalize and they make the prime time image of, I know I'm the ish, right? And then you have people like, you know, LeBron, who has his boys and his friends.
Right. Great point.
It's different for everybody. And you got Steph Curry, who has his mom, his dad, his brother. So it's different for everybody. But as long as it all comes back to the central point of knowing who you are and being okay with that person and being okay with what you see in the mirror and whatever is displayed or how they turn and manipulate your image, and they do that because the one thing about these kids growing up is that they think social media is who they are, right? Like, so how people, if I don't get enough likes, people don't like me,
right?
If I don't get enough retweets, people don't like me,
right?
Instead of just taking the action as whatever I'm doing, the picture or whatever, they take it internally as they don't like me. And you got me and you who didn't grow up in social media, and we like, that don't make no sense. I
don't give a damn.
5 likes, I like me. You know what I'm saying? Like when I used to be out here in these streets before I got my fiance, I was like, listen, my mom think I'm handsome, so I'm good. You know, I'm good. Okay, what you think? My mom say I'm handsome. So it's reteaching kids how to find themselves and be okay with themselves instead of looking for outside gratification or outside validation, saying, oh, these people think I'm cool, so now I'm cool. Like, nah, I've been cool. I don't know what you thought.
Right. You just find it out.
You late to the party. You know?
Right.
that guy.
Great point, bro. Hey, man, always appreciate you, Scotty. Thank you for checking in. Look, how can people tune into your show, Off Script TV?
Man, you catch me on YouTube, Off Script. Type it in. You already know what it is. Bringing that wow entertainment in your face attribute. Shout out to Mr. Damon in the chat. He be jumping back and forth. I love that, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can catch me on YouTube. Instagram and Twitter, Off Script TV as well.
There it is, my man Scotty checking in on Off Script TV.
Hey, real quick.
It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it.
It's cool when they do it.
My brother Scotty checking in. Make sure y'all tune into him, man. One of our top sports contributors here on The Culture. Always love my brother and the work that he's bringing to the culture. Thank you, Scotty. Truly appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Phenomenal show today. Phenomenal show. I want to thank my crew. I want to thank my executive producer, Joel, my man, King Keenan, for making the show great, my control room. And, of course, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Make sure y'all do y'all due diligence. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you continue to support us. We are looking for financial support. We're looking for you to share that content, making sure that that folks know that this digital media platform is here to stay. We're talking about the culture in a very, very different way. So go to blackstarnetwork.com. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network on Twitter, IG, and on Facebook. Also follow me, yours truly, on Twitter at Faraji, and as well on Instagram at The Real Faraji, when I love to connect and build with you. All right, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process, God willing. We will talk tomorrow as we honor the 55th year of the killing of our brother, Dr. Martin Luther King. Tomorrow, also, we'll talk about President Trump and so much more. So stay with us tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon and evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.